Hey everybody, it's Tammy Kaiser here with another busy Catholic mom book review. Now, have you ever felt, and maybe you feel this way now, feel this way often? I know I do. Like, I just feel like we're just so busy. I'm working some part-time jobs, and my husband's got this busy job where works all the time, and we're just trying to make ends meet, and really, there doesn't seem like a lot of time for family and doing those slow, simple things that, it looks like families in the past might have had more time to do, but, instead we're just busy working, paying bills, but yet we're kind of caught up in the consumeristic life that our culture is pushing us. Like we've got to have the two cars or more, we've got to have the vacation, we've got to have the bigger house. And well, if you've ever struggled with these things and talk to your husband, how could we live differently? Then you'll really enjoy this book by Hallie Stewart, The Grace of Enough. And so she and her husband had that conversation together, and they decided that they would sell their house and move to a tiny apartment with their three children into a farming commune. And they were going to try that for a year to see what that kind of lifestyle would look like. And so this book is very easy to read because, it's kind of like her story, but at the same time, you really get all the valuable lessons that she got from that experience without you having to go live on a farm and give up flush toilets. They had compostable toilets in their little apartment. So yeah, you can imagine, selling all your stuff in your house so that it can just fit into a tiny apartment. And then just having that a simpler life where her husband works in the farm and they help at the farm, and it's comes home for lunch. All these valuable things that you would love to experience, but you don't know how to quite do in your lifestyle. But what I liked about the book isn't that it's not so much here everybody needs to go live on a farming commune. That's not what the book is about. Rather, it's about what they learned about pursuing less and living more, and about our throwaway culture. So you get these valuable lessons that are in there while she's sharing some of the stories and her experiences. And what she does a wonderful job doing is that she explains that you can live these lessons now, and no matter where you're living, whether you live in a suburb, whether you live in the city, whether you do live out on a farm, you can learn some of these lessons that she points out that our throwaway culture, our throwaway society is pushing us the other way away from those lessons. So, what are some of the lessons that she has in here? Well, the first part of the book, if you can see that, talks about returning to our roots. So she talks about how we need to get, back to living off the land. And certainly after reading that chapter, it's going to make you want to go put tomatoes in your front yard. Um, and just the beauty of raising your own food, and how, as a society and a culture, how this the food that we're raising is, it's not being very good stewards of the land, the ways that we do it. And so she explains a lot of that, and just the beauty and I guess what a wonderful experience that is to raise your own food and to know your own food. And that's really how God created us in this world. She talks about beauty, and then the idea of home being the priority. Perhaps I think that the chapter that I liked the most, or the section I liked the most, was the second section, and that was about community and hospitality. Now, if you listen to my last book review, it was called Building the Benedict Option, and that's sort of what that book was about, how we need community and we need to build that. And so she shared how living in that farming commune opened her eyes to how important community is, how important it is to be with other people. In our busy rat race world, where we work all the time and then we're just tired and then we plug into our devices, we just are missing community. And along the same lines of that community is hospitality, just opening up our homes to other people. And like I said, we're caught up. We have so much stuff, maybe so much stuff that we can't keep our house clean, so we feel like we can't have people over. Um, I guess the other example that I liked was where she talked about the home being a hotel. Is your home like a hotel? And sometimes I think I'm guilty of that. It's just a place where, you eat and sleep. And of course, that's not what we want our homes to be. And the other example that she gave in the book that I really liked and could really relate to was your home being like the Weasleys from Harry Potter. So if you think about, what home did Harry Potter want to live in and consider more like his home? Well, it was the Weasleys' home, of course, because it's just busy with action. It wasn't clean. Certainly wasn't the wealthiest place, but it was a place of warmth and welcoming. And she talks about the 5-hour dinner too, and the slow food movement, and just that the value of just sitting down at dinner, and we see the wealth and the theology that goes into the idea of a meal, and having communion together at a dinner table. And so, certainly that's one aspect that can come from trying to live this more slow paced, easier, less cluttered, not throwaway, valuing good food and valuing community. This can all come from that. She stresses that, hospitality, you don't have to worry about, it's not about serving you, it's about serving others. And it doesn't matter if your house is a mess. You just need to open up your home and let other people in. And how much in our society we just don't do that anymore, and how much our society really, really craves that. And then the last section, she calls it centering our disconnected lives at home. And, I thought a lot of that, those sections there was, not a little bit of the how to and practical of living this out. But in that section, she talks about, like I mentioned, the devices and how connected we are to the media, and how that can really, break us down, brings us into that throwaway culture, that consumeristic, materialistic culture that we have, because we are bombarded with all these things that we think we need to have, watching other people who have all these kinds of things. But also, more importantly, how media gives us this false sense of community, where we think we have connections with people, but we have nothing. And so, and we turn more and more to more social media for those connections, but yet we keep finding that we're more empty and more empty. And so she challenges us to really question our social media use. Not that we need to get rid of technology altogether. She certainly doesn't recommend that, but just that we need to see how we use technology. What need is that filling in our lives, or what need is it taking away of other things that we should be doing with that time? So it just encourages us to take a really good look. And finally, just hope. The last chapter was about hope, because you read this and it sounds like everything so and it looks beautiful, like this paradise and farming that we all could be living in, but yet in our reality we can't do that. And when we look out at our world, it looks hopeless. Let's just face it. What we're doing to how we raise our food, how we're just more and more busy, more compartmentalized, how everyone's addicted to their devices, that it just seems hopeless. But of course, it's not hopeless, and we can all make changes one at a time, with one person to the next person, and all those little changes can add up and make a big difference to our culture and to our world. So we aren't without hope, but we have to make that decision to try to live differently. And I think after you read this book, you sort of feel that, you feel that encouragement, is hope. There are little things that I can do. You don't get the impression as, oh no, I have to go live on a farm now. That's the only way I can do that. No. And what I thought was most interesting too is, so after they had this year experiment, did they go out and buy their own farm so they can, continue living off the land and having their own farm community? No. They decided that, and I thought this was so interesting, they decided that they were going to live in the middle of a city. They're gonna have a yard so they can raise some land, but they are decided to, live with other people, live in a community, in a diverse community too. So they buy an old house and they live where they know their neighbors, where they can walk to a parish, and where her husband can walk to work. So that was what they sort of felt that God was calling them. So, wherever you are now, you can live some of the ideas in this book, whether it is like in a city, develop community there, or like maybe you do live on a farm and it might be harder to have community, but sure, you can have community there, and you've got more of the resources where you could invite people over to your homestead, and invite people over to garden or whatever. So many options and so many different ways. So um, you shouldn't feel despair because you can't go live on a farm. But after reading this, you'll be encouraged that, yeah, there's some things I can do. And particularly as I'm putting this out, it's like a week away from Black Friday. So let's take a look at um, how we consume things, how we can live on less. Also, let's look at how, we can be good stewards of the food and of the land that God has given us. But finally, for me, the big takeaway was community. How can I be more hospitable? How can I open up my home and then have people over and make that kind of lifestyle with my family the emphasis? Not the busy, let's get work, let's make money so we can buy bigger things, more, right? But so that, we can take it easy. What can we do to slow down our lives so that we can focus on having more people over at our house, or just being a better neighbor, being more involved in our parish too. So it's a nice read, not too long, and I highly recommend it. Thank you.